This is Carl Smith again. I just finished Austin Abstract Artist Podcast Episode 3. I'm going to work on another intro for number 4. Number 3 went well. It was with Bill Kolb, and number 4 is going to be with Chrys Grummert, who is an amazing painter. I keep saying amazing. I don't know why. He's a really good painter. He's from LA. He's born in, the middle of the United States, like a lot of people. But he's been in Texas for a while. He won the Austin Art Billboard contest, one of the winners in 2011, 12, I don't know. But he's been one of my favorite painters for a long time. The podcast I was going to call Little Pink Podcast, kind of named after Little Pink Monster Gallery. That's a gallery based in Austin, run by Annie Wells, who I'm going to try to get on the podcast. But she said no. Probably good idea. But anyway, a long time ago, me and a guy, Scott Bauer, tried to get an organization going called the Austin Abstract Artist Association. And for about a year, we were trying to get, people interested in having, I guess, an association that would try to advocate on behalf of themselves, on abstract artists, try to book shows and stuff, do good things in Austin, but it fell through, as a lot of things do. I will say I tried hard to get that going, but I met Chrys Grummert through that association, and it was really cool. It was one of the reasons I was so stoked to try to get that association going, was to meet artists and have meetings and talk about art and book shows, etc. But yeah, I met Chrys Grummert through that, and it's been really great. So I'm rambling, but I just wanted to make a short intro. I'm still off work. I'm still in a giant foot cast, which is driving me crazy right now. But while I've got the time, while I'm off work, and while I'm excited about this podcast, I'm gonna try to work on material for it, make it as good as I can. I know I'm rambling, but I'm gonna start putting it on YouTube. I've been having a lot of trouble with the tons and tons of places to put podcasts. They all want money. They all want money basically from you. So I'm going to think of some kind of background image and put it on YouTube. That's oddly enough the easiest way to get it up. Anyway, I'm gonna go. Here is Chrys Grummert, Austin Abstract Artist Podcast, episode number 4. Enjoy. Yeah, like a professional. Yeah, I do it too. You just can't eat
potato chips.
You can't eat anything if you're a professional podcaster. So, all right, dude, let's go for it.
Okay.
Episode, are you all right?
Yeah.
I'm horrible at this shit. I'm really horrible at it, but I'm getting better. I want to learn to interview people.
Well, what drives you to do so?
That's a good question. I want to talk to artists that I like and want to learn from, for sure. I don't know. And I'm also trying to generate content for me and my friends. So if you put a there'll be airplane noises, probably motorcycle noises.
Cool.
And I don't know how to do that with the internet, but podcast, it's like free, easy-ish, give something, and talk about art, it's good to do that. I don't know how to do that.
What? You ask questions of what you're interested in.
Yeah. Oh man, my foot is fucked up. So, okay, I didn't know this, but did you have polio or something?
No, I was run over.
You were run over by a car?
Yeah.
I think that's... How old were you?
7.
I think that's hilarious.
On Valentine's Day. No. Yes, Valentine's Day. My parents' wedding anniversary.
Fucking A. Jesus.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So you were on a walker for a month, you said?
Oh no, I was in a body cast for a year.
A body cast?
Yeah.
Son of a bitch.
From right up under the armpits down.
Jesus. Both legs?
They had to use this leg because there was a big bar between my legs.
Yeah.
To stabilize that leg.
Weird. So you couldn't really use your legs.
I couldn't sit up. I couldn't I just laid there.
You could use your arms.
I could, and I did. I was 7 years old. A year laying down is I mean, so I lived in a hospital basically.
Yeah.
And I remember one kid. I don't remember his name, but he was there for a while too, and so we were put in the same room. And he was mischievous, but we're bored kids.
Yeah.
So, I mean, one of the things we liked to do, because they had to give us water, and back in those days it was a big styrofoam pitcher.
Right.
And they'd put it on our side bed. We could reach it, but they'd put it there. And we'd wait for the nurse to leave for a while, and then we'd take out our knives and forks, or little plastic ones that you get with your meal, and you'd stab them. The coolers, so that the water would just pour out all over the floor.
Jerks.
Well,
little jerks.
We just had to have, so then she would have to come back.
Yeah.
She'd have to clean it up. And then she had to keep us with water.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
But that's what I remember as the highlight. Usually I was just drugged. So
there was no art or anything. You guys weren't drawing or any board games. Just stabbing shit with forks.
Yeah, I mean, I think it. You know, if I look back at it, it created a lot of creative thinking. Because I spent a year laying down, alone, not playing for the kids. So I remember escaping.
Yeah.
Just like you would give me a plastic horse, and I could be gone for hours.
Yeah.
Just having it do things in my head.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a horse.
And you're practicing being in one place at once and not going nuts.
Yeah.
Which is a good art practice, I think.
Yeah.
Learning how to just be in one place without feeling like...
And then exploring there.
Yeah, and imagining.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, I mean, I think it was kind of important to my development to have to... And then, 8 months after living in the hospital, my parents got a hospital bed and put me in the living room, right next to a big picture window, which was really great because I got to see outside again. You
didn't have a TV or a radio or something? They just set you in front of a
In the hospital, we had a television.
Yeah.
But I wasn't near a window.
Okay.
And also in the hospital, I was much more drugged.
Sure.
So I guess after a certain point, they... luckily, they never communicated to me that was the rest of my life. That's what they all believed.
Right.
Come to find out. But,
yeah, that's not good to tell
a
small child.
Yeah.
Your life's over, pretty much.
Yeah. You're like this the rest of their life. Or we're going to take your leg off or something like that.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I just remember hours of daydreaming and, I'd color forms a little bit.
And you're high. Was it painful? It seems like you'd be in pain.
And that's, I guess, the really great thing about pain is you don't have memory of it. It's in that moment it hurts. Mm-hmm. But later you don't look back at it and go, you can say, oh, that was painful, but you don't look back at it and experience it.
Or you don't want to. Just block.
There's that.
Fuck, I'm glad that's not happening right now.
Yeah. But it's not happening, so.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm not, I broke my foot, and I was doing jumping jacks, running around for a month and a half. And the bone is, severed from the bone that's supposed to be attached to. And the doctor was like, you're in a cast right now.
Good.
I was like, fuck, how am I going to drive home? It was very disorienting, because it didn't feel like it was broken, and it doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt right now. And he was like, don't put any weight on it. If you break it, you have to come back. Second day broken. The heel's broken. My feet are coming out of it. Because I'm off work. I get a month off work. It's unpaid. But this is freedom time for me to paint. So I'm like, fuck that. I'm not wasting a month.
Yeah, but...
I don't want it to heal. I don't want it to heal. I want to be disabled so I can paint. Sorry. Okay. That's not how disability works, I know, but... Sorry.
No, that would just be a terrible... what happens when you get older and you go, oh, crap, I wish I'd spent the time to have dealt with this now.
Yeah.
So that later it's really prevalent in your life and it's always screaming at you.
Right.
And you're like, fuck, I should have took care of that. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I'm old enough that I know I can look back at some of those things. I was like, oh crap.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know, man. I gotta paint though. I gotta paint shit.
And you can work around that. There's workarounds because, I
I'm
mean,
doing
things
that.
like I've lived in tiny apartments with my stuff in boxes to the ceiling, and I had a like 3x3 foot table.
Yeah.
And that was my space.
Right.
So I made tiny little paintings. And now, looking back, I really love those paintings.
Yeah.
And it was, but for me at the time, I was coming from like 6x4 foot paintings
Sure.
to suddenly 6x4 foot inch paintings.
Right.
And to deal with that kind of shift in space initially was like a challenge, and that was really great. But then I get to walk away later with new information, like how do I handle small space?
Yeah. It's way harder to make a small painting look good and big than to make a big painting look good, I think.
Rephrase that.
So if you have a small painting, making it look good and like have life and scale within it is more difficult than if you try to make a big painting look good, I think. Like if it's a big painting, I think it's easier to have a human scale to it. Like a lot of your, like pretty much all the paintings on your website, I think are under 3 feet. The biggest one might be 3 feet by 24 or something. But most of them are in that 12, 6-inch range. And I've actually, with my foot being fucked up, I've actually had to go back to that, and I'm really enjoying it.
And that's what I was kind of saying.
Yeah.
This can be a blessing to force you to change or shift, adjust. And that's what kind of a creative life is you're adjusting constantly to new situations.
Yeah. And so let's go, let's just fucking let's just go to Nebraska, let's go to LA. I mean, when did you go from Nebraska to LA? Did you move around before that?
Right after high school, growing up in Nebraska, I moved to Boulder, Colorado, lived there, the party life for about 5 years, and then moved back to Nebraska.
Yeah.
Lived there for about 3 years as I saved up to go to school.
Huh.
But I actually was going to the UNL for a while in fashion design, which was under the heading of home ec.
What's UNL? Sorry.
University of Nebraska Lincoln.
Lincoln. Okay, thank you.
That's where I'm from.
Okay.
And, because while I was there, I was working at factories, and Mom's like, I see you're pretty miserable. I'm like, yep. She goes, how about this? Get into school, and I'll pay your rent while you're in school. I'm like, oh, I can do that. That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't that she was paying it so much as, well, yes, she had a sixplex, and I moved into one of those apartments.
Cool.
I think it was also a way for me to get out of her house.
Sure. And by design, you mean like design as it applies to fashion painting,
design.
Not in
Fashion design,
just fashion.
straight up fashion.
Yeah.
But there, it was under the home ec department, so it wasn't quite what I had in mind for fashion design.
Were you the only dude in there? Home ec, it
I was
doesn't.
fairly close to the only dude, but I wasn't.
Yeah.
But again, it was like literally taking Butterick patterns and adjusting them. It wasn't the fashion design I was aiming for.
Sure.
And so applied to both Parsons in New York and Parsons in LA.
Oh.
And the impetus of that was one of my best friends from Boulder moved to New York.
Okay.
And she goes, why don't you just come out here? I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
And so I applied. Didn't get into Parsons in New York, but got into Parsons in LA.
Yeah.
And so I called her and said, oh, I didn't get into Parsons, New York. She goes, great, because I'm not living in New York anymore. I'm living in LA. I'm like, really? Oh. Because I wanted that buffer of, because I'm still a small town guy.
Sure.
That if I move to a big city, I want to know somebody.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, you gotta know somebody.
Yeah, and I didn't. So having her there helped.
Yeah. Cool.
Even though we didn't really see much of each other, because once you're in school, you're in school.
Yeah. So you didn't have any type of scholarship or anything for Otis?
That first year, no. I had minimal like Pell Grants, and like the school itself didn't give me any scholarships for that first year.
Okay.
It was kind of just I was lucky to get in kind of thing. And I think I was probably even on a waiting list. I went in on half semester, not the full year.
Mm-hmm.
And so like right after Christmas, I'm in school, or like January 5th or whatever it is. And at that point, Otis had multiple parts to their campus. Like, it was part of Chenard. The building we were in was Chenard at one point, but wasn't anymore.
Okay.
So, which is a old school. And it was a shock, and it was a great shock.
Moving to LA.
Yeah, and the classes. Like, sitting with these people who had been exposed to museums and things.
Yeah.
And whose, great uncle or hers uncle is Dennis Hopper, and and I'm like, what? Huh? Who?
Ding 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 ding.
Basically, and then my personality is to play it up louder.
Yeah.
I'm really from Nebraska, even though I wasn't that Nebraskan when I was there. And then, but teachers are good, really good. And I sought out the tough ones.
The tough teachers.
Yeah, the ones that. Well, I would do it based on what I saw the students work, like what kind of work came out of that teacher. And it was interesting because I would think every student would do that.
Right.
And I kept seeing like people would, when I'd list my teachers, other students would roll their eyes and like, oh. But I think because I'd been out there in the life, not gone straight from high school to college.
Yeah.
That those years of floundering around, and when I got to school, I was going to take so much advantage of it. I was eat, sleep, drink, school.
Wow. And you knew you had an eye for good design, and you didn't know you were going to be painting, but you knew you could pick out good things.
Yeah, and I'd been drawing and painting, pretty much my whole life.
Yeah.
I went the practical route.
Yeah.
Because, anytime I made something, Mom would pat me on the back and go, yeah, but what are you going to do with it? And in my brain, I was like, well, I just did. I made this painting. But it was that little voice in my head of, yeah, but you're not going to make any money.
Right.
And so
she was right.
The first, yeah, well, possible. The first year in college is like an overview. You take it's like, foundation classes. Very basic, dig your teeth into, can apply to any medium, any direction you're going into, and then your second year, you're in your department. So come junior fashion, my stepfather passed away, and it was kind of, he'd lived his life like, be happy. Live your life, be happy.
Wow.
Don't be mean to anybody, but be happy.
Yeah.
And him dying was like the first person I knew close to me that I just kind of went, am I happy? Because I'm not really having much fun in fashion. I don't like how they talk.
Was he an artist?
No, he was a rancher.
Cool.
Yeah, it was just, so I shift gears. And I'd had too many other teachers from the fine art department approach me in the fashion department and go, hey, are you happy over there? Because if you're not, you'd be good over here. And I'm like, really?
Painting department.
Fine arts in general.
Okay.
And there's always electives, and I was always taking electives over there, and they're all just kind of like, why are you over in fashion?
Yeah.
I don't see like you're the kind of that would like to talk about bow placement.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, you got a point.
Yeah, that sounds horrible to me.
Yeah, there it was.
I don't think I've ever seen a bow.
A bow
in my life. I know what it is. I just don't think I've seen one in real life.
No, fashion critiques are just. I do like these post-apocalyptic clothing lines.
Yes.
And drawings. And the teachers would just give me these bizarre critiques, like, but would any girl want to wear these? I'm like, I don't know. Am I making them right now? Right now, I'm just doing drawing projects.
Yeah.
Can't I have a little fun? I'm like, yeah, but who would wear these? I'm like, why does it matter?
Wow. Artist.
Yeah. So, yeah. And I mean, I would list, designers that were doing stuff like that, but they weren't that school.
So who were your painting teachers that you remember from Otis that were good? Teachers?
Linda Burnham.
Okay. Was
my very first painting teacher, and I was actually her first painting class.
Okay.
Because I was planning on taking a different teacher. That teacher backed out and recommended Linda Burnham to come in. So she walked in going, hey, I've not done this before.
Cool.
As a teacher. And we're all like, well, I don't know. we've never had painting classes before professionally, like in this school. And her first class I remember very distinctly because was very type A in school. She was like, nobody's getting an A. And we're all like, what? I'm out of here. And I'm like, "Grr." To me that was a challenge.
Sure.
I'm like, oh yeah, want to see? And she used her grades system in a really interesting way. She would use it to motivate you, not to just critique and give you a grade for what you did.
Yeah.
Like if she saw that you worked harder by not getting an A, she would give you B pluses. But if you needed the encouragement, she would give you,
That's a good strategy.
Yeah. Well, for me it was.
Yeah.
I could tell. Like she would dangle that A plus or A in front of me because she knew it was kind of a drive for me, which is kind of sad. But she was a really good painter, teacher, in that she was very open and very critical. Like she taught us to be critical.
Was she doing abstract art, or were you working on that at all?
She would do the gamut because she'd done the gamut. She was very accomplished in that way.
And your assignments were open?
The assignments would be things like, the topic is time, go, and then each student would interpret that. Now, for instance, our very first assignment, which I still have, and she told us to hold on to. Our very first assignment is to take an artist that we admire and make a painting in the style of, or an homage, and she wanted us to do that. One, I think, just to see where we were, like what we think is great art.
Preferences.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then also, she said it will tell you a lot when you're down the road, like that's what you thought about, or that's what you're thinking about.
And you picked Thomas Hart Benton.
No, I actually chose Pollock, but not the drips.
Huh. Which Pollocks?
The brush stroke overall pattern.
Okay. So like the big mural, wide for Peggy.
Big,
Guggenheim.
thick brush strokes.
But
overall pattern.
Okay. Yeah. Not figurative, not she-wolf, not like figurative, but abstract. Okay.
It's that overall pattern kind of thing. And, and it just kept showing up through my whole painting. Pattern and decoration. That's,
And it's still in there a little bit.
It still is, and it still always sits there, and maybe I'll turn it into elements of motifs or icons show up, but it's still in my brain, this idea of pattern and decoration.
And there was no, there seems to be sort of cartoony references. Was that studied? Were you studying that all?
No, that's kind of my natural hand.
Uh-huh.
If we have them, I don't know if that's true, but I believe I do. Even as a child, you know how young teenage girls have that certain kind of very round writing with the little hearts over the eyes and stuff. It's that very openy, O-y, circular kind of writing. Well, my natural drawing tends to lean towards that.
That's good.
But not my handwriting. But that kind of very roundy cartoon. Like when I drew to myself, I was drawing very cute cartoons. Not the heavy metal monsters and stuff like a lot of my teenage peers were doing.
Yeah.
It
seems like that's kind of hard to learn. You start off with just right angles, straight lines, building distinct shapes, and then the line becomes more organic as you improve. Or I don't know. That's my case.
Yeah.
Anyway. But you had to, because you have some paintings that are very geometric.
And those are all new, yeah.
Oh, really?
That's not... I mean, for most of my painting life, it's been the more painterly abstractions.
So is there like a desire to be a painter in that way? Because it seems like there's less drawing and more it feels like you want to be a good painter. Like you said, painterly. That's got to be kind of a goal for you, right? I mean, you're trying to make good paintings.
I'm interested in what painting can do, or can communicate or say, or however the medium. I'm interested in the medium.
Mm-hmm.
And image making to some degree.
Sure.
I don't know, and sometimes I flirt with more, because I had a really strong, realistic side to me in the beginning of school. But that was what teachers were like, loosen up, because I'd render everything, and my thinking about things were really narrowly black and white. You'd say time, and I'd draw a clock. And, with a really great teacher like Linda Burnham, she'd push. And like, no, doesn't have, like, think about the process of time it took to make the painting. Think about time in different ways and see what you can come up with and where it goes. I'm like, oh, huh. And every one of those was that way. As well as I was really shocked at what I would consider a mess or mistakes were often the very things that she would just jump up and down and praise and be like, oh my God, that's it right there, that. I'm like, what? I made a mistake. I squished it and I tried to correct it and it failed, and I kept trying to correct it and it failed. It's just, yes, but it's alive now. It's active. It's, the process is present. You haven't negated it. I'm like, oh, and it took me a while.
Negated it with effort? Or too much
And
effort?
like, yeah, I didn't take the whole canvas and create a non-active space by, like, sometimes realism can do.
Yeah.
Really high super realism. But super realism does it for a very different position. But you can kind of negate the paint.
Yeah, we've talked about that before, painting mistakes, finding mistakes and then painting them intentionally, which is definitely hard to learn to do.
Well, it's exploring it.
Exploring it.
Because you can end up still saying, oh, I hate it. And those are the choices you make through time. And, I think that's all I do when I make the old, what I call the old, but still my abstractions, is the interaction of me and the painting. Where maybe more recently, in the last couple of years, I've been exploring the pre-process before I actually touch the painting or the canvas more than I usually did.
Okay.
Right now, I'm kind of going back to, I put a canvas in front of me, I grab some paint, I put some things down, I walk away, I look at it, and then I interact with that. Okay, now what do I do with that? And then I throw some other things on, and okay, now what do I do with those? And it's me and the canvas talking back and forth.
Okay.
And then there's that nudging and directing to where, I don't know, sometimes.
So, I'm going to go back a little bit. So, you get your BFA 96, is that right? 94?
94.
And then that's in painting? Is that, I don't even
They
know.
call it studio arts, yeah.
Sorry.
It's all of it.
I don't know how college works.
Okay.
I'm a dumbass.
Yeah. No.
But, and sorry, go ahead.
There at Otis, it's the studio arts. So I did a lot of ceramics and a lot of sculpture, a lot of conceptual sculpture. And
So the MFA is 96.
yes.
When you graduate, you stay in LA.
Yes.
And do you immediately start, like, looking for representation? Are you in group shows? What are you doing after that?
I actually did much of none of that. Right after school, I started trying to put my big toe in it.
Yeah.
And it just wasn't manifesting.
And you didn't have any money.
No. I mean, I was working.
What were you doing for work?
Right after school, I was doing upholstery of all things.
Upholstery?
Upholstery.
Of, like, furniture? Like Jack White? Like Detroit? Couches?
Yep. They give me a chair and a fabric, and I tear it apart. And
Wow.
Well, I was working with, under somebody.
Sure.
But, so that was an interesting skill to learn.
Hard work, right?
Hard work.
Like,
Your
dirty.
hands get tore up by the staples.
Yeah, and you're dealing with probably pounds of dead skin and old fur.
Yeah.
But how long, sorry.
No.
How long did you do that?
I'm not sure. A couple of years.
And then what were you for work doing after that?
I think I ended up landing into prop houses.
What's a What's
A
that?
prop house.
Yeah.
It's where the movie industry. There's a big building full of furniture and stuff, props, and the movie industry and commercials come to that place and they rent these things, and then they say they need a 19th century armoire. Well, rather than buying it and constantly looking to buy it, it's at this prop house. So they come rent it. That way they can rent it for a week, do the shoot, drop it back off, and then a month later down the road, or they know where that piece is if they need to do a reshoot.
Cool.
So I worked there helping move that furniture around, put it on the... I didn't put it on the truck, but you bring it to the truckers to put it on the truck and do all the paperwork.
Inventory, storage.
Yep.
Okay. Wow.
And then, I moved from that prop house to another prop house, and then finally to the really cool prop house.
So that sounds pretty lucrative. Like, are you able to paint after work and shit?
Yeah.
And you were still painting and making
Yeah,
art.
so I was constantly, showing people, bringing them into the studio. If you call this studio, it's a space you end up making.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got to a point where I had a tiny little house and a little single car garage that I didn't park the car in, and turned that garage into a studio. And it's LA, so you don't really, don't need heaters and air conditioners.
Yeah.
So
Ugh.
you just open that garage door and you paint. And
Were you selling any art?
out of the studio.
Yeah.
But I wasn't having shows, and I got to a point where I was like, I wasn't having any shows, which was sad. Did kind of wanted them.
Yeah.
I'd bring people to the studio in hopes that they would bring that, but they would often just buy something little and walk away, or keep me in mind, or send your slides. Back then it was slides.
Yeah.
And
Ugh.
yeah.
Schnabel put him in like a bread, like a loaf of bread. That's how he got in his first gallery
That's right.
proposal. Slides. What the fuck?
And I think a part of it too is it was a different time where you didn't hear about all those calls for artists.
Yeah.
Like the internet has definitely changed things.
Yeah, you see everything that's happening.
And there's, websites that list call for artists.
Yeah.
And if you're interested, oh yeah, that would kind of fit for me.
And you pay them money
I know.
that you could spend on art.
But sometimes,
That's fine.
they've been interesting projects.
And you've been, I'm going to go out on a limb and say you've been maybe more successful at that since you moved to Austin than you were in LA.
Yes.
In
Because I
terms of-
didn't have any of those
You
call
didn't
for
get-
artists. I didn't know about them.
You didn't get any awards or any of that stuff in LA.
No.
So when did you?
Well, I mean, I got, there was a big show that LA would have every once in a while, but it was always for the emerging.
Uh-huh.
And, I got into those, but they're massive group shows.
Sure.
500 artists.
Yeah. LA.
Yeah.
Are you? So you're not really emerging, right? Please, I'm confused. You're not an emerging artist, right? You still are.
Yeah.
What is the end game? Like how old are you?
I'm 52.
When do you fucking stop?
Because emerging is less about maybe I'm not maybe I'm mid-career artist,
Okay.
but I think of emerging at least as how much my name is out there.
Oh, fame, like a fame level.
Yeah, but I don't really like fame.
Well, fame is. I mean, that's. I think
Yeah.
of it. People knowing who you are. I
Yeah.
mean, that's kind of a shitty way to think about it, but that's.
Yeah, because if you think if I suddenly popped into New York with a show, they wouldn't say, "Oh, he's mid-career level artist." I would be nobody would know who. Well, most people would not know who the heck I was.
But you've been doing it for a long time. You've had good reviews. You've won awards. Your art has gone through these different phases over a long period of time. You have an MFA. It's like, what do you have to do to? I understand what you're saying. It's just frustrating because, I would almost you're not late career, but
No, I'm not.
but anyway,
Nobody's going to be approaching me with a retrospective. Because I don't have enough behind me.
sure, okay,
I have enough art behind me,
Right.
enough work behind me, but I don't have enough shows behind me.
right, okay,
And I think, and that was kind of partially my choice. I stopped at a certain point pursuing shows
Sure.
while I was in LA.
uh-huh.
When I saw some friends get hurt in that whole art world.
Okay.
And kind of like, you know, and I'm not, I'm, I'm going to get myself in so much trouble, but I'm not a baby kisser.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so,
a lot of artists aren't.
yeah, so I guess that's to my disadvantage. I don't understand personally. I feel really creepy inside when I'm being nice to somebody that I don't know and don't know that if I'd talk to them, if there wasn't some other thing going on, like, oh, they'd be good for you. Like when somebody whispers in my ear, hey, you should talk to them. They'd be good for you. Like for my career or something, I get the willies. Yeah. Personally.
So, sorry, we gotta take a break.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
No.
I'm running out of fucking batteries.
Cool.
It's my fault. But we're gonna take a pause and then come back. I know, right? I had to take a squirt and replace batteries.
Okay.
And we're back, dude.
Okay.
What's up? Chrys? That can't be your parents. That was you.
Yeah.
Good move. I wish I could do that with Carl somehow. Make it more of a different spelling. That.
Well, mine was, I was just a stoner in high school.
Yeah.
And we were studying chrysalis. I'm like, whoa, cool. I feel like I'm coming into a new me. Yeah. And that's, yeah. And now I regret it. It looks so good.
No, I mean, it looks fine for artists. Well, I mean, you gotta have a stage name.
It's been there forever, and it doesn't register to anything to me. It's just how it's been forever. Yeah. And it works. There's no... Well, anyway, so your website is ChrysGrummert.com. And if you put that in Google... There it is. Yeah, you're not going to get a country music star. Yeah. You don't get much with the last name anyway. There's only like 20 of us in existence, I guess. Yeah. It's really small. Grummerts. Yeah. You guys are small. Small group of peoples. Animals. But I want to, let's see. I want to go back to LA. When did you meet Joseph, your partner? 2006. Eero, hush. Stop barking. Come here. Leave it. And so you guys met in LA, and then when did you decide to move to Texas? He was in Georgia, got injured, then they moved him to Fort Hood, and he wasn't getting... And we were Skyping every night, overnight, and so he wasn't... I could hear him not getting the care that I thought would be pretty basic. And so I told him, I said, I gotta come out and take care of you. I can't handle this being this far away, and hearing you're not getting care for. Yeah. And Skyping, watching him fall asleep, because I'd do that, and watching people break into his room and take his meds. And I'd be like, wait a minute. Shit. So, yeah, I just got really... Because then he'd wake up and, in a week or two, be like, I'm out of meds. I don't have any more pain meds. And he'd have to suffer because you weren't allowed to get more meds. Because they're... intense drugs. Yeah, yeah. They would assume he was abusing them or selling them. God. And I guess you'd have to call the cops for them to believe that they were... And I couldn't really, it's dark. I can see people going in, I can see where they're at, and I can see what's in that drawer. Jesus. And Joseph would be knocked out. And I couldn't yell because we were all in mic, headphones. But anyway, so I said, I gotta come, I can't handle this anymore. And he goes, well, why don't you choose any place to live? And I said, really? And I said, he goes, I'm not in any shape to make any kind of decision. I'm like, that's true. Okay. And so I just started looking. We were looking at Germany because he'd been there for a while, and we're looking all over the globe. And I just thought practically again that he's going to be moved to Fort Hood. Yeah. Why don't I start there? And because Austin kept showing up on the list of... Because I'd sit and Google, great places to live, and I'd ask questions, Like the internet knows everything. And Austin kept coming up on the list. And and I'd never been to Texas. And I moved here. There's a reason. You haven't been. Austin's pretty cool, and where I ended up in Wimberly is cool. Well, keep living. Yeah, no, I know it's a red state. It's
Yeah.
bizarre to me.
Well, yeah, it's more than that, but yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
I hear
it's a
you.
bizarre state. Like when I first got here, because coming from LA, which is very liberal, everyone assumes the most liberal thing. Like everyone assumes you're liberal
Sure.
in LA.
Yeah.
And to come here and have those assumptions when I'm talking to people, like when somebody say, "Yeah, I got to get a gun," I would start laughing because, of course, that's a joke. and then their look back to me would be, "Oh, it's not."
You don't have one? How do you defend yourself?
Yeah. How do you kill babies? I'm like, what?
How do you kill those Razorbacks? Right? You're from Nebraska? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of reasons I hate Texas, but I'm going to try to veer away from those.
Okay.
Be a nice
Yes.
person.
Well, also there's a lot of really pretty climate here.
Yeah.
It's tough drought stuff, but
It's prettier other places, though, isn't it? Like,
it's different. It's because
It's
I mean,
different.
in the spring, like we're having right now, it's not that far off from places I've been to in Colorado at some times. And,
sure.
You know, the rocky, mountainy, but really kind of lush.
And then there's summer, which is hell on earth for
Yeah.
months.
Yeah, but then, you know, I grew up in Nebraska where winter
Yeah.
is hell on earth.
I guess so.
So I think, I mean, LA's, all those years there, it has a certain kind of monotony,
Mm-hmm.
which sounds strange to people, of weather.
Yeah.
But what I did like about LA, especially when I was there in school and after, LA hadn't quite gotten the cred that New York had for art.
Sure.
So there was a kind of freedom in that.
Mm-hmm.
There was this kind of quality of nobody's watching us except us.
Mm-hmm.
So we can really go to town and have fun and play and explore and go do crazy things. Like I'd been to so many openings that weren't officially openings.
Mm-hmm.
They were non-gallery spaces
Mm-hmm.
of people digging in somebody's yard.
Yeah.
And everybody showed up and it was like a party, but it was all about art, and that happened. Lots of happenings.
Yeah, it's just as valid a history, like, you know, San Francisco, Ferris Gallery, Rouchet, Kienholz, all those artists are, I mean, I prefer Kienholz to Rauschenberg. I mean, I feel like, I still don't know why LA wasn't on par with New York. They're the same money was there, the same infrastructure, the more freedom, more spaces, I would think. I don't know what's going on. Maybe New York is just more money, so.
Or New York just created its own cred.
Yeah.
And because all the magazines and everything were in New York.
Yeah.
So they only wrote about New York.
Yeah.
And then once we started getting little magazines like art issues, and then I remember back in the 90s that people were amazed. Hey, look, Art in America wrote about an LA artist.
Yeah.
You know, like it was a thing.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Weird.
it was kind of cool because literally it's like the parents are gone
Yeah.
and you throw a party.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And there was something really invigorating about that.
And
then
you don't really care about the, I mean, and I
you're
think-
interacting with the work with
Yeah.
New York,
Mhm.
or even reacting.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because at the time New York's very seriously depressing, dark work is what's called good.
Serious.
And then LA is very much about bright, happy, commercial, you know, questioning, conceptual. There's a cheeriness and a spontaneity and a freedom and a casualness that LA art had that was often kind of in reaction.
Yeah. Yeah, the SF scene, this is a world-class abstract artist, but notoriously, brutally fuck the rest of the world and don't come here to see our work. You know, we got our own shit. But LA, yeah, I'm very interested in people like John Altoon, Rouchet, of course. Those guys are some of the best. Like, Altoon's probably one of my top 3 abstract, on par with de Kooning and you know, and a lot of other dudes. But anyway, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know where I was going with that, but
That's all right.
but you're not there.
No, I'm here.
You're here, which to me is a fucking, like, Austin is. I've been here too long. I'm jaded, but you like it. You've
I
been
do.
successful.
I don't know if I was at the right time to leave LA.
Yeah.
You know, when I realized I'm not going out anymore, I'm not going to shows. I'm like, okay, it's time to get out then, because if I'm not even utilizing this and I'm paying these exorbitant rates to not actually use what's going on around me. I don't need to be here.
Yeah.
And Joseph, and so we plopped ourselves down here. And because of that, it just seemed that we moved here in 2008.
Okay.
And I just realized I had a lot more time on my hands. And I went, hey, let's try this whole reaching out into the world thing with art. And so I started sending off stuff.
Yeah, and you've got, I mean...
And I was happily surprised about reaction.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, it's great work, but yeah, I'm stoked to see... I mean, I can't even remember, but the 2011 Austin Art Boards, which is hard to explain, but you won that.
2010 was the first
2010?
one. Well, you saw it for 2011, if that makes sense. But.
Which is kind of hard to describe. But basically, your art was it on one billboard in Austin, and then it got moved around?
Yes.
And there are 10 winners?
Yes.
Okay. And was that the first year?
Of the art board project.
Okay. So you got in the first year. And what else? Let's just go. You got gallery representation, G Gallery in Houston, which is fucking hard to nail down in Texas. And Houston is a pretty tight scene.
Yeah,
I think.
And that is kind of happenstance, sort of, because that happened by me applying to a show at Blue Star, and the curator for that show coming to my house for the studio visit, and she brought all these people. And these people happened to be G Gallery. And so they called me like a month later and said, hey, we have an opening coming up. And I'm like, oh, all right. And it was a short deadline. I think I had like 4 months. And I was like, I'm jumping on this.
You have to.
Yeah, it was a solo show, solo show. And so I did.
So when was that? When was the solo show there? 2010.
Okay.
Was that when it was? And it's kind of hard to describe. Were you doing the sort of? I know they're the linear layers, which are more recent.
Yes.
That style of painting,
Yep.
which is like.
That was just for the last solo show because
Okay.
I wanted to. I'd been playing with it in my head, and I hadn't done it, and I went. And one day I just picked up the canvas, just started going, and I just kept going. You know, like you have one of those jags of painting where you wake up, drink coffee, and while the coffee is going into your cup, the other hand is putting paint down.
Yeah.
And then you don't eat, and you just go until you sleep, and then you wake up, and that's all you're doing. And that with that linear layers, that's why I ended up with like 48 paintings.
Wow.
Which is a lot. But, they were time consuming, but I just couldn't, I could not do anything else.
What were you figuring out in those?
For me, it was very selfish. It was this interaction of color. And, because you lay down a whole bright blue, and it's one painting. It's just like, wow. And then you go over that, and you leave just an edge of that blue, and now it's dark green.
So you're creating like solid rectangles and then another smaller solid rectangle?
Just inside of it. And
okay,
so each one's a layer. I also liked how the paint was building up. Every little brushstroke, glob, goop, the paint going over it would just build up the paint. And so it becomes this really gnarly texture in the middle.
Okay.
A lot of layers and layers. Like old furniture, like when you've seen old furniture being painted over and over and over and over. And I just it was a very simple premise, and just to watch one color vibrate against the other, and then again, and make these I would end up making little color stories. Like, oh, this reminds me of Scooby-Doo, this purple next to this orange, next to this yellow, next to this, and then I'd lead from there. Oh, from that yellow, it turns into springtime in Paris, or I'd have these little stories, and I was curious to see if it got communicated when it's all kind of so I kind of thought of them as like poems, even though they're kind of just blunt,
direct,
and kind of debased and simple.
Okay. Your words.
and they're not. They're
look-
very casual. Like I'm not trying to control my hand. I'm just putting a rectangle in.
But there's painterly control and hand draw. I mean, those lines look drawn. They don't look. That's not what I'm
using
thinking
a
of.
very wide brush.
But
Purposely.
But they end up looking like thin, 1 inch thinner.
Yeah, they're like a quarter-inch
Thin lines.
basically.
Yeah. So 2010, you're doing these more abstract, cartoony things, and then after that, you get into these. I guess they're landscapes.
Yeah, and the billboard is what brought that all on.
The billboard. Okay.
Yeah, I hadn't really done that until the billboard.
And so tell me how you make the. And I want to try to get people to go to your website.
Okay.
Because you've got to see them
It's a
to
sample.
understand. Yeah. But it's a very interesting progression of the abstracted cartoony to the geometric landscape things to the linear layers, and now you're kind of going back to the 2010 sort of abstracted, but with a different air of design, a different air. The colors are more. It's hard to describe. But anyway, I want to talk about the geometric, landscapey things because you use a computer to make those. Use a program.
A computer to make the shapes.
You design the shapes.
Design the shapes. It's like I would play around all over because what we do is in our creative process, we have other creative things we're doing.
Yeah.
But we're not somehow acknowledging them.
Mm-hmm.
And I was realizing I was doing that with, like, Photoshop. I would just sit and play on Photoshop. And I have for years, and I didn't ever consider it anything. It's just literally the television watching, and I'm playing on Photoshop.
With photos or with blocks?
Colors. And blocks and shapes and things and doodads. And I blow, because you can blow things up. And it's like exploring the buttons. It's kind of teaching myself Photoshop. Because I didn't know any of that. And so I just play with them to get all these shapes, and then what I do is I'll take them for the geometric things, and if I'd like the ending kind of grid, I knew I was going to do something geometric because everyone's I wanted to do my kind of take on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd project these lines. Actually, I took one more step, which was I would print them out on a Xerox, like your home 8x10s.
Mm-hmm.
So a big painting would take several of them.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I don't line them up with my carbon paper and stuff, the lines get wonky.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted all that chance thrown in as well.
Oh, okay.
So it's not an exact replica. There was other steps in between.
Sure.
That may not show or may show up at the end. And I also like the idea of tape edges.
Yeah.
Not because I couldn't do it by hand, but because it's a different kind of edge.
Yeah.
It raises it.
Yeah.
And I would mix it with hand edges that are just as crisp, but also some of the edges of tape I would purposely let degrade. Like I wouldn't put that clear coat first, so that paint would seep up under it. I liked wanting this idea of hard edge painting. To me is like this very perfection kind of driven thing, and I wanted to make that be casual.
Yeah. It's not minimalism though. These are abstracted, complex paintings.
Yes, and color theory is interesting always. Sure. Color, I love color.
You love color.
And I make it really kind of overly cheery, but to me it's not overly cheery. It's still it's cheerful.
And so and so these are in acrylic. Are you buying these colors pre-mixed? Are you mixing them together?
I'm mixing them.
Because you've got there's a definitely complex color sensibility with those tertiaries, a lot of tertiary weird colors.
I like complex colors.
Okay.
I like making colors in two different ways at the same time. Mm-hmm. Using two different yellows and reds to make the same orange, if you can. But that's all personal little game for me.
Yeah.
Like I will sit there and go, okay, I've made that orange. Now recreate it using something else, if I can. What can I do? How can I get there? And then putting that on the painting somewhere. Mm-hmm. But it's because I'm there for hours sitting by myself. I have these little games I like to play.
With color now, but the games before seemed to be more with drawing and structure. 2010. I'm thinking the color complexity wasn't there as much, and it was more drawing these forms over each other.
the color complexity is there over time. If you're of looking at the painting, at least that was my goal.
Okay.
Is often I'd want to pull up colors that are hidden deep back and put them on top to shorten the space, to make this shallow space of abstraction.
Okay.
Not a depth of abstraction, but to kind of give the thought of these forms sitting on surface, but also having depth, like a little fight there.
Okay.
But I liked, if I felt like a painting was getting too quote unquote deep, complex wise, or not deep, spatial, I would often try to flatten it.
Yeah. Awesome.
Or hint to it.
So these are on canvas usually?
I love panel, but yes, usually.
And these are like, 14 by 16 inch sort of.
Yeah, they're 30 inch. A lot of the geometrics are in the 30 inch. Or, yeah.
Okay. Trying to think of what else. What is that? So what are you working on right now? Specifically?
The abstractions, I'm going to head to do some large ones.
Okay.
Because I've been playing in small for a while.
Okay.
And I want to... And it'll be interesting to see what I bring with me from the small paintings. I would kind of like... Because I kind of convinced myself what I liked about small paintings is the intimacy, which people have to get really close to the paintings.
Yeah.
And I want to bring the sense of intimacy to a very large space, and I don't want what often can be, sometimes a big painting can read as very ego-centric somehow.
Yeah.
I'd rather have it be kind of enveloping or vulnerable, like somehow more vulnerable. I don't know if I can do that. We'll see.
That's hard.
Yeah.
That's tough, and we were kind of talking about that. I think I have a lot of trouble making the big paintings look intimate.
It's tough, especially with strong color. Because color already kind of jumps outward.
Yeah. And placement of that color, which I usually gear towards where your feet would be, so it's not up near your head blasting at you. But
so it's kind of nipping at your ankles?
Yeah, and it's less... I guess that's more of a landscape reference where the stuff that's at your feet is closer. But anyway, so this year, what is it, the Austin City Hall, what is that called, the People's Gallery?
Yeah, that was last year.
That was last year?
Yeah.
Okay.
I took it came down in January, but it was up for a year.
Okay. And we apply for the Texas Biennial pretty much every time it comes up, don't we?
Is it coming up?
I don't know.
Yeah. I think you should. Everyone should.
We should, yeah. I think, I'm hoping that you get that at some point.
We all should at some point.
Are we all? Really? Not all of us. I mean...
No, I think
some people shouldn't.
Yeah, there's a lot here for that as well. That's kind of nice.
Yeah, there's the East Austin Studio Tour, which, have you done?
Yes.
You've done, okay.
I've been, but yeah, as guest in other studios at Pump Project.
Okay. So that's not, I'm thinking, okay.
Because I don't live here in Austin, so.
You don't?
No.
You live in Austin and its surrounding, which is
yeah.
Wimberly, which is an hour away?
A little over, yeah.
Over an hour. Welcome to Texas.
Yeah.
I forgot I wanted to think about how I couldn't remember if we had met through the East Austin Studio Tour, but I'm remembering now that...
Austin Abstracts.
Because the podcast I wanted to name Little Pink Podcast, because there's a gallery, Little Pink Monster Gallery.
Yes.
And the woman who owns that gallery said, no, you can't do that. That's a horrible idea. And I was like racking my name for...
You could call it Little Green One.
That doesn't work, does it?
No.
Little green. I hate green.
Well, green.
No, I don't hate green. But 2012, I think, me and another dude started an Austin Abstract Artists Association, which I was stoked about. But that's how we met. You came to like...
Was that 12?
I don't remember.
I don't either.
I'm guessing 12, but...
Okay.
You came to the first meeting with bells on, and it was just me, you, and this other dude, and maybe one other person, and I spent this guy, Scott Bauer, actually initiated it, and when he did, I was so happy and tried for a year to really get it off the ground.
Yeah.
And nothing happened except for us meeting.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming.
No, thanks for
And that's how we met, and now we're, we're best friends. We're not best friends. We're art friends, and I appreciate you being here and helping me with everything. You've been
Thanks for
giving me advice.
Well,
And
I get to talk to somebody too.
yeah, no kidding. Well, you've got, Wimberly's pretty, like, there's some artists there and shit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Julie Underreiner, who is good. She's a good artist. There's got to be more out there, right? More painters out there.
Yeah, I'm hoping. We should just collect them. But no, abstractions are. I have recently bought the Texas Abstract book. I haven't gotten it in the mail yet though.
I don't know what that is.
Oh, it's a book that just came out. It's about Texas abstractionists.
Oh, throughout history.
No, current.
Like a list of people doing.
It's a catalog, the cafe table book. Full of pictures and stuff.
Oh.
So I'm interested to see what that is.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, we gotta search them out.
You're in it, probably.
No, I'm not. They don't know about me yet. Search them out.
Yeah.
Staple them into our Rolodexes.
Where are they?
I haven't got the book yet.
Yeah.
A lot of them are in Houston. I know the
Dallas. Yeah.
in Dallas, and yeah, I need to investigate Dallas more.
Yeah, I've been at the beginning of this year. It's 2015 in January. I spent that whole month trying to find stuff in Dallas because I hate Houston. I'm from there, and it's a tough scene to break into. I would think that there'd be more money and it would be easier, but I've been hearing that it's a lot of trouble. But Dallas is a little nicer.
Cool.
The people aren't as crazy.
Okay.
As Houston, in my opinion. And there are people moving there from like Britain and shit, like YBAs are moving to Dallas because. So yeah, let's do Dallas.
Okay, let's do it.
But what's coming up for you this year? Do you have shows? Do you have plans?
Not really. There's a group show coming in October at
Doherty Art Center Gallery.
Okay.
Is that the Wimberly group of artists?
Yes.
What are they called?
The Wimberly group of artists.
No, they're not.
I don't think we have an official title.
Well, the show is called anyway.
Yeah.
But that's October.
I believe
it's a group show. How many artists?
3 of us.
3 are. Oh shit! 3-person. Awesome. Yep. What else is there?
I haven't looked at Call for Artists at all this year.
Really?
Not at all.
Taking it easy.
I haven't. Yeah, I've completely just not done it.
Shit.
Which is fine. I like to paint, so I'm gonna paint and kind of let it be a little more organic. And like you said, sometimes you're always paying for these Call for Artists, and then you're kind of like, wait, and then I pay for shipping and return shipping.
And then I have to buy paint. So,
and yeah, all this stuff has to happen. And wait, how is this helpful?
So are you, I know you got Facebook, facebook.com/CHRYS.GRUMMERT. That's your Facebook page?
That's my name.
But there's a dot.
Is there?
Yeah.
I didn't put it there.
Well, someone did.
Oh, okay.
They assigned it to you. But, and then we said your website, ChrysGrummert.com. Are you using any other social media tools to get your art out there?
I think I have a little Pinterest.
Pinterest.
That I made, and then I don't know. Sometimes I get on a jag and I just start blasting the internet.
Yeah.
And then I forget all my passwords.
Oh, you gotta write it down.
I know.
You don't have I have a fucking file in my file folder. You have a filing cabinet. You need a filing cabinet. So buy a filing cabinet. Go to IKEA.
And just all your passwords go in this filing cabinet.
Yes. And if you get an Instagram, a Pinterest, a Twitter, yeah, my thing, it's inches thick now. It's thousands of passwords. I have to write them down. I have to alphabetize them, but I have, and they expire. But anyway,
yeah,
write them down.
I know, because I went on eBay the other day and realized I had no idea what my password was.
Well, how are you gonna look?
I know.
You can't.
I have to start a new account anytime I want to buy something.
So we'll work on that.
We will. Thank you for helping.
Get a Twitter. Start with Twitter.
I have a Twitter.
Tweet some shit. You do.
But I don't know how...
You don't know the password.
No,
So
I think I know that one. But I go there and but I'm not on the phone, and
Mm-hmm.
somehow maybe that makes a difference. I don't know.
Do you have a smartphone?
I think I do.
No, you don't.
It's just I'm not smart.
You're smart enough, but yeah, I think to do Instagram you have to have a smartphone. You can't do it without it, I think. But anyway, someone gave me a smartphone. I dropped it in the toilet, and then someone gave me another one.
Right. That's nice.
But I think, is there anything else you wanted to add? I think we're good. I think we've covered everything. I know there are things I'm missing, but you're awesome. You're an awesome artist.
Well,
I love you. I love your work.
Thank you.
Thanks for being in Texas. Thanks for being my friend. Thanks for doing this interview.
Thank you.
And yeah, I guess we'll close it out. Austin Abstract Artist Podcast. This is number 4. It's March 2015. Carl Smith, Chrys Grummert. We're out.